All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to talk about the most important instruction manual you'll ever own. The one that builds and runs your entire body. Yep, we're talking about your genes.
So let's start with a big question. What if your entire body, I mean everything, from your eye color to how you fight off a cold, was built from a single instruction manual? Just think about that for a second. Well, guess what? That's not some sci-fi concept. It's literally how our bodies work. So that blueprint we just talked about, it's written in a language called DNA, and a copy of it is tucked away inside pretty much every single cell in your body. And the individual instructions, the specific sentences in that giant manual, those are what we call genes.
Okay, so what is a gene exactly? Well, think of your DNA as a massive cookbook. A gene is just one recipe in that book. It's a small chunk of your DNA, and its main job is to give the instructions for making one specific thing, a protein. And why should you care about proteins? Because honestly, they do, well, everything. They're like the tiny construction workers and mechanics of your body. They build you, they fix you, they defend you. The genes are the blueprints, sure, but the proteins are the ones actually doing all the heavy lifting.
But what happens when there's a mistake in the blueprint? A tiny typo in just one of those instructions? This is where things get really interesting.
That little typo? It's got a name, a mutation. All it is a change in the DNA code. And just like a typo can completely change the meaning of a word, a mutation can totally change the instruction that a gene is trying to give.
Let me show you a super simple way to think about this. Imagine a gene's instruction is the word cat. That's it. Your body reads cat and knows exactly what to do. Simple enough, right? Okay, but now watch this. One tiny typo, just one letter changes, and cat becomes bat. It's still a word, but the instruction is now completely different. The body gets the wrong message entirely, and that one tiny change can have huge consequences.
So you see, that single typo isn't just a small problem. It can actually kick off a massive chain reaction, like a set of dominoes falling, one after another, all starting from that one little error. And here's how that domino effect works. It's basically a three-step process. First, you get the typo, the mutation. Second, because the instruction's wrong, the body makes the wrong part, a faulty protein. And third, well, when you have a broken part, the machine doesn't work right. A key bodily function can break down, and that's where a genetic disease can start.
Let's make this real. Take cystic fibrosis. There's a mutation in a gene called CFTR. That leads to a broken protein, one that's supposed to handle salt and water moving in and out of cells. Because it's broken, what happens? The body makes this incredibly thick, sticky mucus that clogs up the lungs. It's a devastating but perfect example of that domino effect.
So, a big question is, where do these typos even come from? Well, a lot of the time, they aren't new mistakes at all. They're actually handed down from our parents, kind of like an unwanted inheritance. Sometimes, it only takes one bad copy. For a condition like Huntington's disease, you only need to inherit one mutated gene from one parent. That's it. We call this a dominant trait because that one faulty instruction basically shouts over the healthy one. But for other diseases, it's different. Look at cystic fibrosis again. For that one, you need to get a bad copy from both parents. If you only get one, you're fine. You're what we call a carrier, but you don't have the disease. It takes two faulty copies for the problem to show up. This is a recessive trait.
Okay, so these different rules create some clear patterns. You've got your dominant traits, like we saw with Huntington's, just one bad gene is enough. Then recessive, like cystic fibrosis, where you need two. Then things get even more specific. There are X-linked disorders tied to the X chromosome. That's why conditions like hemophilia are much more common in men. And then there's this really fascinating one, mitochondrial inheritance, where the genes are passed down only from the mother. It's a whole different set of rules.
So it's really easy to start thinking of our genes as, destiny. A fixed blueprint we can't do anything about. But the truth is, it's a lot more complicated than that. The story definitely doesn't end with a single gene.
And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. It's not always this simple cause and effect thing. A lot of the big diseases we hear about, heart disease, diabetes, they're what we call multifactorial. It's like this complicated dance between the genes you have and the life you live, your environment. And get this, sometimes the typos aren't inherited at all. They just happen, spontaneously, out of nowhere.
So yeah, it's clear our genes write the first draft of our story. They're the blueprint we start with.
But the more we learn about how they interact with our world, with our choices, it really leaves you with a huge, fascinating question, doesn't it? Our genes might write the story, but do we get to edit it?